Hey, Team Impact, it's Thursday. If you're watching this video, yesterday we started with comparing rational numbers. It was a busy day. We talked about changing decimals to percents and percents back to decimals. We organized data, and we only got through this page yesterday, so we're going to continue that path. We're going to flip it and take a look at the next page, task 3. So if you weren't in class today, I passed calculators out. We do have a quiz tomorrow. We have con due tomorrow. The next page is actually homework, the independent practice. So you have this for homework and a digital activity. This is going to be a pretty quick video. It's going to be a good work day in class. So if you're at home, try to find a scientific calculator at home. If not, do the best you can with it. So let's go. Task 3. All right, clues A, B, and C are missing values that will help unlock the treasure chest. Use the rational numbers in the blank below to fill in the blanks and keeping the tables ordered from least to greatest. I like to always highlight that. All right, so what I would do here, all right, is I would change all of these to a decimal or a percent, right? And to make life easy, I'm going to change them to a decimal. And because what I want to do, all right, is get everything apples to apples. So we're going to go back and use our calculator a little bit today, clear that. So let's go ahead and just review that function with our calculator. 28 4/10%, and you can see it there. And we're just going to switch that to a decimal. And I think if you hit enter, it just moves it 2 decimal places to the left. So right next to that, I'm going to write the decimal value of that. Remember, all it's doing is moving it 2 to the left. We're looking for this piece. 5/12 is our next issue. 5n/d12, all right, and get your fraction in there. To change that to a decimal, we hit second n/d. Fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction. And there it is. And it's kind of a unique decimal. It's a repeater, right? So let's write that down. So it's going to be 416 thousandths with the 6 repeating. And I put the bar over the 6 because the 6's go forever. Remember, your calculator is rounding at the end. The next one's also going to be a repeating decimal, 3/7. Let's take a peek at it and switch it to a decimal. And it's a goofy one, right? It's pretty long. So the repeating starts at, it will start at the 4. 4285714. All right, so I'm going to write that down. 4285714. And I'm going to put a bar over that entire decimal piece. Now, what I'm looking for, all right, without doing any work up here, is I'm looking for a decimal that is greater than 0.284 and smaller than 0.416. All right, well, all right, these are both less than 1, so I know those two are out. I'm not even going to look at those two, okay? But if I go to the next one right there, 375 thousandths. 375 thousandths goes nicely right in between those two decimals, okay, or a percent and a fraction. But now I have them all to decimals, and I can compare those nicely, right? Okay, so next up, all right, we have 3%. Let's take all of those to decimals, and let's do that without the calculator, right? It's going to be a little bit easier. So if we just move this 2 to the left, I end up with 0.005. Okay, 1, 2 to the left. 2 to the left here, I end up with 95 10,000ths. The next decimal, if I move this 2 to the left, I end up with 34 thousandths. So now I kind of have apples to apples. Again, I'm not going to look at these ones here because they're greater than 2. And I need a number here that's less than 1. So I'm looking for something that's going to fit in nicely between 0.0095 and 0.034. All right, and if I look, right here is our culprit. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for 21 thousandths. So if I write that down, it's going to fit in nicely. 0.02 is greater than this, right? Because this is 0.00, and it is less than 0.03. So this is what we're looking for. So we've used these two. Let's get rid of them. Now, if we look at the last clue, clue C, clearly this clue is going to deal with our mixed numbers that we have left. Okay? I guess it could deal with 2 9/10, all right, and possibly this, but that's a percent. So really that as a decimal equals that. 269 thousandths. So really that is out. I really don't have that to look at here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is switch these again to a decimal. All right, and what you're going to notice is I'm going to go ahead and write the whole number 2. And then I'm just going to convert these fractions and write them after the decimal. So let's take a look. 3/8. 3 n over d 8. Okay? And if I switch that to a decimal, I end up with 0.375. So I'm just going to write that after it. The next one, 5/12. 5 n over d 12. Change it to a decimal. And there it is. And it's another repeater. So it's going to be 2.416 repeating. And if you can see that, you can see how those sixes are going forever and it rounded it at the end. I used bar notation above that, all right, to write it. All right, and then down here 5/6 is going to be another repeating decimal. Okay, and you're going to see it's a little bit different, and it goes 83 hundredths with the 3 repeating. So how do I write that? 0.83, and I put a bar over it, and you can kind of see that there. It's kind of mixed in with that, right? Let me rewrite that so you can see how I wrote that down there. Now, I'm looking for a decimal that's going to be greater than 0.4 but less than 0.8. I have no idea what this is going to be, so I'm just going to start here and work left to right and change those. So 2 and 5/16. Let's see what 5/16 is as a decimal. Well, it's going to be 0.3125. So let me write that down. 2.3125. Okay? So let's see if that works. I need a decimal that's greater than 0.4. I don't even look at these other two digits. This is less than 0.4. It is out. Okay? Let's go to 5/8. Well, I'm going to draw a line here to separate it. 2 point. Now I'm going to convert 5/8 to a decimal. So 5 n over d 8, switch it to a decimal, and I get 0.625, or 2 and 625 thousandths. Okay? Now let's go back and check and see if Gretchen, that number fits for Gretchen. Okay? Okay. So when we look at this, I have 0.4, 0.8, this is 0.6, there it is. So 2 and 5/8 fits nicely in there. So it's just process of elimination, it's trial and error. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink here. Let me pause this. Okay, so I hope you're feeling good. It's just a lot of calculator work, getting organized, and then reading the decimals and comparing them left to right. And again, if it was a mixed number, I just brought the whole number over and converted the fraction to a decimal. Task 4. Task 4 reads, in the last and final task, Raul and Dana must order the scrambled numbers from least to greatest. Okay? Least to greatest. So we have rational numbers. We have percents, decimals, impropers, negative percents. It's crazy. Okay? So let's get all of these to decimals. Let's get them all apples to apples. All right. So a percent to a decimal. We're going to move it 2 to the right. So this, as a decimal, is 4. 1, 2, there it is, 4.00. This is already a decimal. I'm going to use my calculator and switch 7 seconds to a decimal. 7 n over d2 to the right. Switch it to a decimal, and it's 3 5/10. So above that, I write 3.5. And then the last one is a percent. I'm going to change it to a decimal. And by the way, it's a negative percent, so it's 3/10, negative 3/10. Okay. Now I have apples to apples. I have all decimals. I can compare. What is the smallest, least to greatest? So the smallest one, well, clearly, all right, is going to be negative 2 9/10. This is, all right, not quite negative 1. So the first one is negative 2 9/10. The next one is the next negative, which is negative 3/10. Cross it off. And now I'm comparing 400% and 7 seconds. And let me go back and rewrite this as the original value of negative 30%. We want to write that original value down. Okay, so next up will be 7 over 2 because 3 is less than 4. And then finally it will be 400%. Okay. All right, let's take a peek at this next one. Here we go. I have a decimal, a decimal, a decimal. I'm going to convert that to a decimal. I'm going to move that decimal point 2 places to the left, and I'm going to end up with 115 10,000ths. Now, let's go least to greatest. Now, you're going to notice that I have 3 negative numbers, and the bigger the negative, the smaller it is. So that clearly is going to be the first negative I write down. Now we have to slow down. We have 9/10 and 7/10, and they are both in the negative genre. The bigger the negative, the smaller it is, so I'm going to write that down. Clearly that's next because it's negative, and this is a positive value. And I'm going to finish with 1 1500%. Okay? All right, let's continue on. We have 3 negative values and 1 improper fraction. Let's convert these. Here we go. Negative 4/5. Well, that's one I kind of know. So I'm just going to write that down, and it's going to be negative 8/10. This is a decimal. I leave it alone, right? This is negative 4 1/5. So I'm going to put my negative 4 point. Well, if we change 1/5 to a decimal, and this is another one that I know, but just to show you, it's going to be 2/10. So it's negative 4 2/10. When you know them, when you see them, you write them and you'll remember them. The last one is 15/4. I am going to use the calculator for it. 15, oops. Sorry about that. Let's clear that. And 15 over 4. And let's change that to a decimal. And we get 3 75/100. Okay? Now, I know this is the biggest one, okay, because it's not a negative. So I'm going to get rid of it right now and write 15/4 there and get rid of it. Now, I'm looking for the smallest one. I'm looking for the biggest negative, and negative 4.5, negative 4.2, there it is. So it's negative 4 55/100. Get rid of it. The next one is going to be negative 4 1/5. There it is. And the last one is negative 4/5. Negative 4/5. So, a lot of organizational work here on this page. So we're just getting organized, all right, using our calculator. Again, this is due for tomorrow. We're doing this in class. Then you're going to slide to the digital activity. So quite a bit of work for tomorrow. Enjoy the day.